Now, today we're going to talk some about events, but we're also going to talk about ideas primarily. And I want to start by thinking about Iris Murdoch here in a sort of typical contemplative philosopher's pose, and review a few ideas. There was a short reading from Murdoch that I wanted you to do to give you an idea of her overall view. Since you voted her out of the quotation part of the final, I'll do this quickly. But anyway, her main idea is really that there is no single principle. There is no single value. There is no one thing that everything reduces to. In fact, morality isn't just a list either of a bunch of things. It is a single complex picture. It has many different elements to it. And so morality is really a way of combining a lot of different things we care about in complicated ways that aren't easily captured by any one rule or principle. Now, one of those is happiness. Lots of philosophers have said in the end it's all about human happiness. Aristotle, John Stuart Mill, a variety of others. And she says, well, look, that is one component. They're certainly right. That in the end, human happiness is a huge constituent of human affairs. We think about things and we evaluate them as good or bad, as right or wrong, as just or unjust, in part on their effects on human happiness. It is relevant to every moral decision. But on the other hand, it's not the only thing that's relevant. It's one of the things that are relevant. And so she's saying Aristotle, Mill, a variety of people who think about happiness are in part right, but they don't have the whole story. There are lots of other things we care about, things like kindness, things like duty, things like moral habits, things like virtues or sensibility. And that's one of the things she focuses on. Look, to be a good person is in part to think about the world in a certain way, to see it in a certain way, to have a certain sensibility. And it's a certain orientation, as she puts it, of our energy and our appetites. It's not just following certain rules, it's really having an orientation toward reality in a certain kind of way. So part of that is recognizing that the good is like a magnet. The good is something that draws us toward it, and that has a real power in human affairs. People, she says, will naturally know the difference between good and evil, and it takes a lot of theorizing to convince them that they don't. People at the time they're in kindergarten know that it's wrong to hit that little kid in the head and take his toy, okay? They don't, in a sense, have to be taught that, although it helps if they're taught that, and that's reinforced. That's something that people know, and it really takes quite a lot of theorizing, a lot of sophistication. There are certain things that George Orwell said, only an intellectual could believe. No normal person could be such a fool. And she's echoing that similar theme here. There are certain things you can be cynical about, anybody can be cynical about, but certain things no one should be cynical about, and it takes a lot of theory to actually convince somebody they should be cynical about. And then one of her main themes is that we live in the present. And the present is something that has a certain character based on the way we think about it. She says that's what's near us. It matters what kind of place it is. What determines what kind of place it is? To some extent, external conditions, the way the world is around you, but to some extent, the way you react to the world. She says at one point, look, every single second has a moral tag. We spend most of our lives in a conversation with ourselves, thinking, basically talking to ourselves internally. And it matters a lot what kind of conversation that is, what we're telling ourselves. And so in the end, she says, look, in the end, everything really matters. Everything has a kind of significance. And morality is really connected to the whole of our being. But at the same time that we recognize that, we recognize we are telling ourselves a story as life goes on. We're in this conversation with ourselves. It matters what it is. And it matters what the details are. In the end, life isn't some grand theory. Life is made up of details. And so it's into ourselves, into that conversation, and into the details that we have to look to understand what life is truly all about.